Diaz Roll at Night. I was going to tell you guys before we started recording, but I'm going to tell you now, the intro doesn't... I have to post-edit the intro music.
Oh, so like even us like making noises doesn't do shit?
I mean, it will, but like I have to post-edit it in. It doesn't come over like when I play it for you guys. Yeah.
So you're not going to hear my cowbells?
You will, but I'll have to now do editing to make sure it lines up.
I mean, I don't care if you do or you don't, whatever. That's it, I'm out.
Because I usually line it up with my voice saying welcome.
Perfect.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting.
It's going to be like on the ones and the twos, and they're just going to be like...
Like, man, Phil doesn't know how to fucking keep
off.
tempo.
Like when we were talking about how loud it was last week, it totally wasn't because I post-edited it in.
No, I mean, that's perfectly fine, but it was loud in my ears, and that's what matters to me.
Yeah.
I don't care what content comes out at the end of this. I just care about being here with my friends and this scary-ass dragon that's been staring at me for 3 weeks.
Literally, it follows him home and stares at him, too.
Mm-hmm, it does.
I mean, you know, it's cool. I guess.
I mean, it's Tiamat.
It is Tiamat. It's a huge figure. If you're at home, look up the Tiamat minifig.
It's not mini at all. And it's not the aspect ratio one either. It's the full-fledged Tiamat figurine.
Where did you get that from?
I actually got this one off Amazon. But there are other places, but I got it cheaper on Amazon.
Isn't it the Whiz Kids one?
Maybe.
Did it ship like that, or were it like multiple pieces?
It was
or-
multiple pieces. The wings and the tail were not attached.
Yeah, I was gonna say that seems pretty dangerous in an Amazon box. I watched this video that someone posted online of like things being packaged at Amazon, and it's like wild. It was like Peppa the Pig, like it put it on the like conveyor belt, and like it immediately shows like an outline of Peppa the Pig, and then it like goes down this long line of like this box, no, this box, no, this finds the perfect box, and then just like closes it up real quick, and like it was wild.
That is weird.
Yeah.
I had a very bad Amazon shipping the last time I bought something.
You had bad shipping?
Yep.
How so?
It was real bad. So, the backstory is I have incredibly flat feet, and I've been walking. And I got a pair of shoes, and they're not...
Just so everyone knows that Tim actually doesn't normally walk.
It's true.
37 steps a week at most.
It's true. No exaggeration. So I bought a pair of shoes to go walking in because my previous pair were worn out. And they just kind of suck. I'm a flat-footed person, so like didn't have enough cushion. So then I went to buy another pair of shoes that are kind of like my old version of shoes, like super legit, but they're super expensive. And I found a pair that was $40 cheaper. So it's like $140 pair of shoes, so like $100. But
I couldn't do that math, thank you.
but they're incredibly ugly.
Yeah.
So I buy them like 2 weeks ago. It delays shipping like a week, and then another week goes by, and they finally like update my shipping, like, oh, you're getting your shoes today. And I open up the plastic bag that Amazon ships in. I'm like, that's weird that my shoes came in a plastic bag. It's because the box was completely destroyed. I opened up the bag, and this box just oozed out.
Box shreds.
Yes. I was like, all right,
Cool.
How'd the shoes turn out, though?
great. I haven't worn them because I've been sick, but, you know, they're great.
Just so you know, Tim does not wear shoes when he's sick.
I meant for walking.
I know. I'm just being a pain in the ass. All right, this is going to sound crazy, and it's all right. You guys can be like, wow, Phil's a conspiracy theorist.
And you are.
Oh, well, this is true.
Birds aren't real.
Birds aren't real, or they are real, but they're drones.
World's definitely
But
flat.
actually, us using very cushioned shoes does not help with your flat-footedness. And if you wear more like natural flatter-footed shoes, like barefoot shoes, it's going to help rebuild that natural arch, not arc.
If you have one.
Well, I didn't have one, and then I started wearing barefoot shoes like 3 months ago, and like now it's cool because like when I get out of the shower and step on my bath mat, it's like slowly starting to turn into an arch, and it's actually pretty cool because before that, just like Bigfoot. So I definitely recommend barefoot shoes, but they're not for everyone. I mean, it's been a very interesting experience, but I feel like I played rugby for years, had like really bad knee pain, like my waist, hips not great, and like for the last like 2 months I felt really good. So just saying out there. So if you're a barefoot shoe company and you want to sponsor us, I will only play a halfling with bare feet shoes for the rest of my life.
That's actually the halfling's gimmick in the campaign.
Yeah.
Is to sell barefoot shoes.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. It's like a rogue, but it's like a reverse rogue. Instead of like stealing stuff from people, its goal is to give shoes. It's like a cobbler.
Reverse pickpocket people.
Yeah, reverse pickpocket. What these ugly ass shoes? What are they doing here? You're welcome.
I love doing that in the Fallout series and reverse pickpocketing like mines or grenades and people.
You could do that with poison potions in Skyrim.
I don't think I've ever done that.
And then they'll eat it, and
Yeah.
then they die.
And Oblivion was clutch, the poison apple. Yep.
Man, I have not played Skyrim in so long.
You're like, now I want to.
Yeah, now I want like to play after like probably what, like 15? No, not 15 years. It came out what, 2010?
2011.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, 11.
Make a wish.
I mean, that's when Skyrim came out. I actually went to the midnight release.
So you were there on 11/10/11.
Well, technically 11.
At 11:11.
Yeah. No, I went to
So you got there right at midnight. You did not get there before.
maybe like 20 minutes before midnight.
So then you were there at 11:10/11.
It was like 11:40. It was a lame experience. It was a GameStop. They just kind of like, here's your game. Have a nice day. And then I go home to install Skyrim, thinking this is going to be amazing. And then I popped the disc in, and it just launched Steam and started downloading the game. And I was like,
Cool.
yeah.
You're like, Khajiit has no memory.
Last time I bought like physical media.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of physical media.
I mean, it was great. I mean, the midnight, like, I went to the StarCraft 2 midnight release. I've been to a few of them, but like,
So I don't know if you guys
I did-
remember this, but when Tony Hawk Underground came out, they like traveled the
The
country.
underground?
Yeah, they traveled the underground, and like they had this like basically big bus that like opened up and had like TVs, and you could go and like play. So me and Ryan are like 13, 14 years old or something at this point, and we go up to the Best Buy. That's not the old Best Buy. That's not too far away from
Right.
here. And there's like Red Bull trucks, so we're like getting hopped up on Red Bull because Red Bull was newer, and just playing Tony Hawk on the Best Buy parking lot. It was
you go.
wild, good times. It was not at midnight. It was like middle of the day. And it was kind of hot that I remember, but I just remember being like all hopped up on not Mountain Dew. I keep saying hopped
Bull.
up on Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
Hopped up on Mountain Dew.
On Red Bull, and I'm like, you know what? I think I had so much Red Bull that day that I never wanted another Red Bull.
Let's get him some Red Bull.
yeah, we should. We should. That was a month after I bought the house, too, when I bought Skyrim.
Damn.
Fancy.
Yeah.
Like, who needs to pay a mortgage when I can be the motherfucking Thane of Whiterun?
I think I was still playing Skyrim when my ex-wife left me, too.
You were definitely playing Skyrim when I
Like,
moved
he
in.
never turned it off, like, from the time he got it until, like, she's leaving, and he's just like,
I'm too busy.
okay, yeah,
Foos Roda.
yeah.
Yeah, Tim actually didn't text me to see if I wanted to move in. He just shot an arrow through my window with a scroll attached to it.
But it hit you in the knee.
Yeah.
Damn.
God, that was so long ago. Jesus.
But not as old as Jesus, to be clear. All right,
I feel like it sometimes.
so we're here to talk about Dungeons and Dragons.
Wait, yeah?
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
We're in a dungeon, so let's talk about dragons. Tim,
I have a dragon.
you had something that you wanted to talk about, bring up?
Yeah, since we've been talking about the different editions of D&D, and we've kind of mentioned the D&D 1 or 5.5 or 6th edition, whatever they're calling it, an article was released, I guess that was last week,
Yeah, the 22nd of
The-
March. Yeah.
where Chris Perkins was at the Gen Con, I do believe. And if you don't know who Chris Perkins is, look at any D&D source book, playbook. Chris Perkins' name is going to be there. He does a lot of the writing for D&D. He does a lot of the kind of rules for D&D now. Like he's a big force at Wizards of the Coast. And the headline is D&D dev says there isn't a new edition of the game because players can't get enough of this one. And it's basically people keep buying 5e stuff that they're not going to change it now.
Well, they also keep putting out 5e stuff, so I don't know what you expect.
I mean, and his point was don't fix what isn't broken. And he talks about like the third edition and the whole reason why they came out with 3.5 or 4.0 was because people stopped buying the content. And they saw the fandom dwindling, and so they decided, all right, I guess people are getting bored of this version, so we're going to release a new version and kind of change things up to see if that sparks anything. And so he's basically saying, like, the reason why we're thinking about, like, 6e or whatever, but everyone's still buying the stuff, so...
Yep.
It's basically the gist of the article.
One thing that I saw in the article that kind of popped out to me is they kind of talk about, like, you're never going to make everyone happy.
Right.
So, you change stuff, and then you lost a whole lot of followers when you went from 3.5 to 4. But, and again, if they came out with the new stuff because people stopped buying the older product, then, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But, again, if there's enough people still buying shit and who will keep buying shit, don't do too much. Maybe fix some broken stuff you've got in there, but I would leave it at that.
So it's interesting, like, that is in the article because, so it is, obviously end of March 2024 right now. They're still releasing the core books in September of 2024 with a release date of the rest of it in 2025. So it's like they're saying, no, we're not changing it, but they're still releasing a new version of the game.
I think it's more of a simplified version of 5e. One of the things he talks about at the end of the article is like there's just way too much going on. There's too many classes and subclasses and blah, 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 blah. So they're trying to simplify 5e a little bit.
So hear me out. What they need to do is they need to come up with 12 D12s. One's a positive, one's a negative, and then you roll it, but then someone else rolls a different dice.
Genius.
I know, right?
He kind of talked about, like, why have a fighter and a barbarian? Just make the barbarian a subclass of the fighter.
Yeah, and I mean that kind of happened with, like, back in, I feel like 3.5 is like they did kind of merge some of those things together because they're like, well, yeah, I mean these are kind of close, but I don't know. It's just it's hard because I know they're saying right now subclasses are the Wild West, but it's just like, okay, cool. So we get rid of subclasses, and then we still have 500 subclass of fighter that I can be.
Right.
Then I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna choose the barbarian skill tree. Okay, now I can be a crazy electro storm giant barbarian fighter. It's just like, I mean, they're just shifting where all the trees are. Like they're just basically shifting it down the branch. Yeah. Like, okay, well, I mean, I understand it, but like, I think a lot of people like think like, oh, fighter is going to be more like a soldier. Someone is going to be a brawler, and then like barbarian's going to be more like bestial, and someone that grew up in like the woods. Like, I don't know. So I mean, you could argue that for anything. Like, well, we don't need a barbarian and a druid because they both live outside.
I've always thought the fighter is like a DPS and the barbarian is more of a tank. But
sure, I mean, there's like different barbarians you can be. You can be the the totem of the bear, and then the totem of the, can't remember the other one, but like one's defensive and one's offensive. Like,
I mean, there's so many subclasses now; it's hard to even keep track of.
It's true too.
Yeah, and they just keep adding more and more and more, and they keep adding what different classes can do, and it's just, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, fighters, barbarians, and monks. So it's like, okay. And then you've got like clerics, paladins, and druid. I mean, I can see where you're like merging some of them, but also I'm like, it's been like this forever. Stop changing it.
Right.
You said don't change it if it isn't broken. I don't need you to combine them.
Well, and I think a few things like the monk was a little bit under par for what other things, and I would say the same thing for just your basic fighter. I mean, there's a couple things you can go into with a fighter, but most people don't play fighters. Most people don't play monks because there's no like big power up anywhere along the way. And those, compared to other ones, I mean, like you get your spellcasters who can fucking just rain down hell on everybody, and you're like, cool, me as a fighter, I'm only doing 2, maybe 3 attacks, but they're only like a third of what a wizard could do with their one action.
Yeah.
So I get a little bit of probably beefing some of those up, and I think there are certain things that I think a fighter can be specific for to keep him, because he's supposed to be kind of a tanky person.
Yeah.
And I think there's some stuff that could do to modify fighters along the way to make it more of like a, hey, you come to me and you fight me, you don't touch them because I have the high AC, higher health. And barbarians, where they come in, is they're just a lot more mobile, so they can go around and do shit, and they've just got fuck tons of health.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I mean, it kind of comes back to the like whole like source books and like buying things. Like you can get a good monk build, but you have to buy the right like source book that gives you, I think it's the Path of the Chromatic Dragon, which like gives you like basically like dragon powers, but also like elemental powers. But like
Right.
you're buying a book or you're buying something if you're D&D Beyond like specifically for that. So you're paying like $10
good
to
old pay to win mentality.
$35 to be able to be this monk versus like if you are like a just core book, like you're not doing anything exciting. You're like, all right, cool, Step of the Wind, gotcha. All right, I can punch you 3 times. I can kick you 3 times. How you like me now?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I totally get that aspect of it. But man, that made me sad when you're like, no one wants to play a monk. But I will say, I feel like newer players play fighters and play monks because they don't have to know a lot of
That's
like.
true.
They're like, oh, I don't want to be the spellcaster that casts fireball and kills the whole party. They're like, you know what? I just want to punch stuff and stab stuff, and I feel like that happens a lot. And I had one guy starting a campaign as a fighter, and I'm like, a fighter's fun, but like I think as a tiefling, maybe a barbarian would be kind of cooler for you because you would have more like demon-esque, characteristics if you went down this path. And he was like, okay, that makes sense.
That's fair.
I mean, I went from spellcaster to now plain Jane fighter boy.
Yep.
So
I mean, it's fun to mix it up. Like, it's just like, especially as a fighter when you're like, okay, when you get higher levels and you're fighting a spellcaster and then like, you're a monk and you're like, disarming strike or whatever. And you're just like, haha, you can't do anything now. Or like Sentinel, and just like, you make this like high DPS area of effect person just like look like a chump. And you're like, yeah, all I can do is punch and kick things.
I think I'm going to go the route of battle master with my fighter. So like, there's different things you can do, like, switching bait. So like, you can switch with another player and be
Yeah.
like, now you have to attack me. Or there's the one that gives the DM any disadvantage if he attacks anyone else but you.
And it's part of bait and switch.
Yeah.
Yep.
You increase the AC, and then you can roll to decide like whether they have advantage against you or they have advantage against everyone else.
Right.
So yeah, it's or disadvantage against you or everyone else. So yeah, it's
I'm
pretty
playing that druid, which is another one I don't feel like, at least in our groups, a lot of people haven't really played a druid. And I was like, I want to fucking roll a druid.
cool. I honestly think, I think the druid's one of the best classes. Like,
They're definitely OP.
yeah, like when you get higher up there, but like, you can not only be like this, like, you have this like thing in between a wizard and in between like a sorcerer, but like then you can turn into an animal. Like there's just so many, and you can also be like a cleric. Like I chose a Circle of Stars cleric, and I literally like heals. I would throw up like a guardian spirit, and people would just sit in it, and I'd be like, all right, cool. Now I can move this over to you. You just stay behind that rock, and I'm just like, yeah, I think the druid is pound for pound the best class.
I mean, I call it OP because like you can turn into an Earth Elemental, and they have like 150 hit points, and you have to drain all of that,
Yeah,
and then you become a person again, and then you can cast it again.
Yeah, if you've got yeah. So
I mean, at that point, you'll be able to do it multiple times. Because I think
Yeah.
it's level 11, 10 or 11, I think you can start doing elementals.
something
so-
like that, yeah.
Well, even your wild shapes have their own separate HP then, right?
Yep.
Yep.
So you at least have literally double HP.
Well, unless you become a rat and then you get kicked because you have one
Hit point.
hit
yeah,
point,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then
Those,
you start a
in
whole
my opinion,
problem.
those are more of like a, hey, we're going in for a stealthy thing. I'm going to go recon as a rat or a spider or a fly or whatever.
That's what happened to me, and I got kicked as a rat 'cause I had a bad
That's why you
roll.
got to be something that's small, not noticeable, and up in the air so you're hard to hit.
I mean, but it was like
A wizard casts fireball and a fly in a corner. Stupid fly.
yeah. Well, I mean, it was in a house, so the rat made sense because like a rat's gonna find the holes in the house and chill around and maybe find a nice little lady rat and quit adventuring and just find a home.
Settle down.
That'd be
It's a rat.
hilarious as a DM if you're like, so Phil turns into a rat and he's trying to go recon on this house. Well, there's this other rat that's in there and it's giving you the goo goo eyes.
Random encounter, roll for rat goo goo eyes. Honestly, maybe that would be like a fun like start to a campaign. Is like you're all like people, like you're all like humanoids and you're fighting stuff like that. But then like at the end of everything, then you turn into a rat, but to find out that you're actually a rat druid that turned into a human, and you're like masquerading as a human.
That'd be funny.
Remember when we were talking about like we were going to talk about these weird scenarios, and then we didn't do it, and now we are talking about the weird scenarios.
100%.
Now I want to be like Splinter, like
There's
the rat.
a conspiracy that Haslin from Baldur's Gate 3 is actually a bear.
Yep.
Interesting.
Who
Spoilers.
Yeah, who made himself into a human.
Interesting.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's why when you have sex with him, he goes, "Let me get into something a little bit more comfortable," and he shape changes into a bear.
Nope. Yep.
Remember when we were talking about this article, and then we just started talking about being bears and being rats and
That's D&D, man.
goo goo I am.
Just pure chaos all the time.
Yeah.
Chaos.
Well, do we have more to say about this article, or do we want to talk about the meat and potatoes of this episode?
That's all I wanted to bring up since we have been talking about the different editions of D&D.
Sorry, one D&D, you get 15 minutes.
I mean, he basically said they're not doing another edition, and then they kind of are, so I wonder what it's going to really be like. I don't know.
I mean, I feel like they just got so much backlash. They're like, no, we're not going to make a bunch of changes, but like Hasbro's like, yes, we are. We're going to make whatever we can do to make money.
I mean, but they're already making hand over fist money, so, like...
I mean, what is a company's goal? To make more money.
I mean, people who are going to buy anything else as well, and
That's true.
as long as they keep coming out with content for just regular 5th edition, we'll be fine.
The only other thing I'll mention is there has been a lot of backlash on Daggerheart. I've been seeing articles pop up about that.
Yeah, like I said, there's some great parts, and then there's also some hard parts. Like the whole combat is not easier. I don't want to have to keep track of my stress. I mean, we'll go back to this. Like there are certain like smaller one shots where I'm like, that'd be fine, whatever. Stress, harm, like I can deal with those as like, but like to play through like a 2-3 year campaign of like, oh man, I gotta take care of this armor. I gotta do this. Like, I don't want to do that upkeep. It's a cool concept. I know it's in beta, so hopefully they take all this criticism and they go with it. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
A lot of people have been picking up on the monetization, how you have to potentially buy all their stuff, their critical role, 12-sided dice, and the cards for everything. So
I mean, if you have to go buy a critical role 12-sided die, you do not understand how they work because you just get a dark one, and that is your fear dice, and then you get a colorful one, and that is your hope die.
Right.
Problem solved.
I mean, it's the cards with all the stuff on it that could be a thing, but
Or you can also just get pieces of paper and write on them and then glue them onto actual, like, a deck of cards.
So seriously, that's like what I did when,
Yeah.
like when I was in like first or second grade. I would just like draw, like Hercules was super popular, so I would literally like draw on paper and like make like little like figurines and like straight up made my own like.
He did that with Pokemon, too. He would
Yeah.
look up the stat information for his Pokemon and just...
Yeah, I invented Digimon that way.
oh, Digimon.
digital monsters.
So the actual purpose of this episode, porpoise.
It's a porpoise?
It's a porpoise.
So,
We're going to be talking about all the way back to session 0, which Phil wasn't a part of. So
aw, I was there in spirit, and I was yelling at you guys like,
All the time.
dumbass roll, idiot. Why would you do that? I don't really think the session 0 so much.
I mean, in session 0, the party literally didn't do their only objective they had.
Yeah, but like I also don't think that's a session 0. I think a session 0 is more like sitting down, like talking about the world, like talking about your characters, and like doing that in like, and it's perfect. I know you made a comment in the episode. You're like, good DMs don't do this, but I'm gonna do it anyway.
And that's
I'm
why
a-
he's a great
And
DM.
I'm just like, I think you can do whatever you want. Like that's the whole thing about a podcast is you can literally just talk about whatever you want.
I also
Right.
think it was nice for the players to hear, kind of like... Because we weren't playing your absolute conventional D&D, so Tim also, for the players, laid it out there like... Or not just for the players, but for the listeners, like... Here's kind of how we're going to play. This is what you can expect. If that's something that's up your alley, cool. This is for you. If it's not, well, listen to us for an episode or two, and then give us a like and subscribe, and then fuck off.
Yeah. I just want to know, like, how soon. I mean, I don't know if you wanted to go into like a little intro to it, or you just wanted to kind of just like
You should
talk
just
as we go.
just repeat exactly what you told us in session 0.
yeah. Here,
I literally have my DM notes.
Yeah, that's what he was saying before we started.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't necessarily think you need to do that, but like, I'm just curious, like, how soon did everyone have their character sheets, and like to you, and you were like, all right, you guys are all chaotic characters, or did you find that out day of that everyone was a chaotic character?
I want to say when we started doing the one shots, they were creating their characters.
Mine was already made.
I
Yeah.
know that yours was, yeah.
I think a lot of them were creating their characters, and through that time span, I got some back and then gave them feedback on kind of their backstory, and I kind of called it session -1, where I gave them a backstory to say this is where you're going to be at,
Numbers mean nothing to Tim.
100%,
True.
because I wanted to, because
I mean, I think that right there is a session 0 when you're giving the backstories and stuff like that. But once again,
This
it's
was
your
one-on-one
campaign.
sections, though, so it wasn't like
No, I
a
get
true
it.
session.
Ooh, that's it was intimate. Nice.
Well, it was a little different because, like, Critical Role, their session 0 is obviously off the table. Matt goes to, them and has them roll by themselves to go to houses or have dinner. And so I wanted session 0 to be on the podcast to show new players or people listening, hey, this is what kind of happens behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But I also I didn't want to do all of the character creation, all the backstory on the podcast because that kind of eliminates some of the fun.
Yeah, finding out about what's going to happen.
Or, the audience discovering the characters as they go along.
Yeah.
So then I just called it -1, where, all right, this is what's happening in the world for you guys. I told Curtis and Ryan, you guys are friends. You have been doing this for a little while. Kind of
It was
gave
a few months.
Yeah, a few months. Ryan, this is kind of what's happened to you and get you to Waterford. Curtis the same way. I basically told Nick, like, you'll find out. You'll figure it out.
He changed because I had actual like some in-depth backstory stuff and left things kind of open-ended for Tim to tinker here and there, and he goes, nah, we're gonna do this a little different. He's like, you literally have nothing. He's like, for all of my stuff, it just said error.
Yeah.
I literally went to his D&D Beyond and just deleted everything.
But I just wanted to go back to like the part where like you told Ryan and Curtis that they had known each other for 3 months, but literally they're like sitting at a table together, like they've been forever, and they're like, "Wait, who are you?" It's like, "Oh, I'm Scott. Pleasure to meet you." I'm like, "Well,
He's like,
I'm Babylon. We've known each other." Well, it's nice to know you. Like, it's just like, wait, you've been working for this person for 3 months, and it is funny because sometimes you do have to like shoehorn it, and like I know you said like prior to that, it was like, sometimes you just have to yes and it, and it's just like super hilarious. Some of the yes ands that happen, and you're just like, yep, now I got to throw out this whole character arc or whatever. So like the thing that stood out is like a chaotic crew. I know most of the people that have been on the podcast have been kind of chaotic. I think the only non-chaotic person is Enoch, and he's been in 3 episodes, so spoilers for
Spoilers.
or 2 episodes. I'm not even 100% sure. And then, you talked about natural 20s and kind of explaining how those worked.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it may be something that I'll have to like listen back through. But I feel like with a natural 20 one time, Ryan rolled a natural 20, but the DC was so high, you said it did not succeed. I don't know if this is ringing a bell at all for you for like later on, but I was just like, I feel like you kind of laid it out that a D20 at the beginning was a success no matter what.
I would have to look at the rules that I set up for natural.
And you have to rewrite the entirety of the history because we'll have to rewrite the story because Ryan succeeded in that check. No, I just like I couldn't remember. I just remember you two like kind of going back and forth on it. But another thing that you brought up is like, and it was nice how you laid it down is like, I am the judge, jury, and executioner, and like even if the role may not necessarily, maybe it could go either way, but like I'm gonna make that decision. And I mean, it's fine. Like I'm not like, oh my God, he rolled a natural 20. It should have been a success. But I just remember that, and I was just like, I remember, but I can't remember what it was. I don't think it was anything like crazy important.
Well, it was a skill check on something, which in actual D&D, the rules state that critical success really only happens
in combat. Yeah.
And I think that's what I was referring to because I have it in my rules that like calling it flare, and I'll give you extra damage dice. So I'm alluding to this is your attack.
Yeah.
I have it written down. I do not say that verbatim, but I kind of, I guess, allude to it because I say I'll give you extra damage dice if you have a critical success.
Mm-hmm. Wait, well, are those notes the ones that you threw in the air? And that's great.
Mm-hmm. Because at the time I used to print them out just so I would write, because I'd write everything down or anytime there's an initiative roll, I have to write all of that down so I can keep track of it. Then I just started using my laptop and stopped printing them out.
And then you talk about BS rolls, like some bullshit happening. And the thing that stuck out to me was like the little riff that Caleb went on where he was like, oh man, I went to swing my sword and I bit my lip and whatever, or bit my tongue. And like, I just could not get that out of my head. I don't know why. It's such a teeny tiny detail, but it was just like the way he delivered it was just so like phenomenal. It's like, oh man, I went to swing and then I bit my, and like he like even made the noise like with like his mouth. I'm just like, dude, this is insane. And then I wrote this note down. I know what I meant to say, but that's why when you guys said something and I was like completely lost like a few minutes ago originally was don't yuck anyone's yum, which I know what it means, but what I wrote in my note is don't yuck any yummy. So I'm just like, okay, so that's what like really took me out of it for a second. But no, I like you laying out that like, hey, people are going to make decisions. They're going to play it the way that they're going to play it. And like, you have to try to do your best to adhere to that. Obviously, like if someone's going to be blatantly like one way or another and it's going to take away from the fun of everyone, you're going to be like, no, don't do that. But like, I don't know, it was fun. And then Nick said something about yumming someone's yuck.
Yep.
And that's why I think that's probably when I was writing the note. I was probably like, yummy.
I mean, the whole session This was early on, the whole dick on the roof thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The dick on the duck.
The dick on the,
The
duck,
duck, yeah.
on the roof. So like I know this was like a story that you wrote. I feel like this is going to be more like an interview. I feel like
That's fine.
I'm just
Totally fine.
making eyes at you, making
Totally fine.
rat
Are they
goo
googly
eyes.
eyes?
They're rat goo eyes. The the age of Arcana is over. The year is 1292. Where did you like pull that? Like, what was your inspiration for that?
I've kind of talked about it a little bit before. I just straight up made it up.
Tell me now.
Straight up made it up. Looking at other like fantasy stuff, and it's kind of, if you look at like the beginning of D&D 5e, magic isn't around. So I kind of just stole from that.
But magic is around because you even
But it's
say-
illegal.
Yeah, but it's
It's
illegal. It's still
illegal.
there. So I'm just like curious.
Illegal.
No, I'm not gonna. Can't make me do it. He's yucking my yum, Dad. Hey, Tim, Dad, Tim.
Daddy Tim.
Daddy Tim,
Ooh.
Timmy Dad. I like Timmy Dad more.
I mean, I kind of set it up where the wizards and the paladins have control over all of the magic, and they're the ones hoarding all the magic,
Gatekeeping,
gatekeeping all the magic.
which I know we've alluded to some political affiliations in some of them, which was kind of funny. And then like the gods remaining silent. So like, what made you? And obviously, I know like we still haven't gotten through all of it, and I know like right now in the current campaign, like we're kind of getting to all that stuff, but you know,
A little bit here and there.
for these new listeners that are chiming in for the first time and kind of getting a recap on something that they've never listened to, like why did you want the gods to like not be omnipresent and like a big part of your campaign?
Well, they are,
Not when they're silent. I'm saying this is the beginning. Shh.
but they are, because
They're
it
just
gives
being gatekeeped.
it gives the PCs now the reason why the gods are present, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, this is just me asking questions for our listeners.
So,
I've listened to this. I'm caught up, man. I know.
So, and I keep alluding to you guys. There's a reason why all this wacky stuff is happening to you guys. Like, there's reasons that you're getting all these magical super items, because you're kind of the force of what the gods are doing. Yeah, they're silent because they're pushing against all of the wizards and the paladins, and for whatever reason, the gods have picked you idiots.
Yeah, that happens.
Hey, my character is very intelligent.
But like, what made you like want to give, like, you know, hand things out? Like, you know, there's a scene where Snee remembers that they have a dagger and a sword, and like then they're like, oh, cool, I can pull it out of my magic bag. They're magical weapons, you know, that happen later on that you're like, I want to get like, what, you know, because there are some, you know, DMs that are very hardcore and they're like, well, you got to scavenge for it. You got to find it. You got to, I feel like to a certain extent, like, you know, obviously you have a storyline, but like what made you want to like make these items more accessible? Did you even talk about it? You're like, I'm going to give you guys things. I'm going to make it so it works. You're going to get a bag of holding off the rip.
Mm-hmm. Part of that is because it's just fun. It's as simple as that. Because when you have a DM hoarding all the stuff and you're just like, cool, I'm still using my longsword the whole campaign. It's
+1, baby.
or
+1.
not even a +1. Like you're just standard, and it's like, all right, there's a lot of magical weird stuff that you can do, and as the DM, you then have to put in a little bit extra work because now all of you guys are way overpowered for level 8.
Mm-hmm.
So then it gives me a little bit more fun to then go, all right, I'm going to throw a fiend at you guys, which is way above your CR level.
Sure.
Because it's more fun and there's more things to do with it. And then I can nerf the fiend or mess with the fiend and make them have less powers or more powers, or give certain things more powers, like the Beholder.
Give him a really big dick.
Really big dick. The Beholder that killed Imp Scott, I kind of called it a baby Beholder, so I like nerfed its hit points a little bit, took away some of his DC for his tentacles, but he still had like 5 or 6 tentacles.
Yep. And I hid in a pile of gold.
Yep.
To win.
Sometimes that's what you got to do.
So it was just kind of. I feel like that's more fun to have all these magical shit happening,
Sure.
and it just. I'm a chaos gremlin too.
Yeah.
So let's throw more chaos into it.
Yeah.
Especially when I have players that go, I'm going to roll a chaotic character. All right, I'll just make the campaign more chaotic.
Yeah.
Let's throw
Which
a
is
fucking
fair.
deck of holding into the campaign.
A deck of holding. What is that?
Oh, I mean, the deck of many things.
It's a deck. It's like a card, but then it has a bag attached to it, and it's like some crazy shit each time.
That
But
would
then
be
you
awesome.
also get whatever, like the donjon. Or so like, oh sweet, I got this sword. Oh my god, I'm dead. All right, so basically, it starts with those two chuckle fucks sitting at a bar, and they've been working together for 3 months, and they finally.
But yet also at the same time just figuring out each other's names.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got Caleb over at the, what would you consider it? The monastery, where the
It
paladins
was a
are?
little mini monastery because it was only him and one other paladin in this
Yeah,
order.
I mean it happens. It works. But just when you knock on the door as Mav, and he's like, "Oh fuck, I guess I'm just starting my day." Like once again, like just like the like comedic timing was like phenomenal there. The Tipsy Tankard, where all of it started. Where'd you get the name for that?
I
he
think
was drinking when he was writing, so he was tipsy.
Was it out of a tankard?
yes. No.
It's actually out of the tank of a toilet, but he didn't want to confess, so he's like tankard.
So when I originally was doing the first couple sessions of this campaign, I was going to take from Waterdeep Dragon Heist, the book.
Yeah,
And so what I did was just decided to change the names to everything. So I think the Tipsy Tankard is a ripoff of one of the bars in the book.
sure.
That's just a little name different,
Yeah,
I do believe.
and so
Yeah.
the owners of the Tipsy Tankard, Shelby and Shelly, the wife. Nick, I feel like I've been bugging Tim mostly about this, and obviously Tim chose Shelby. But what's the origin of Shelby, for you? Because you brought it, from before.
So honestly, because as a DM, you never have any names prepared for any NPCs. But of course, they're always like, "What's your name?" And you're like, And I was sitting in the DM section, and I looked over, and technically Tim's car is Sally, but it made me think of like a Shelby Mustang. So
Sure.
I just named a character Shelby, and then they just showed up and everything, and like all my one shots going into it. So then Tim, to do a little, little Easter egg, he's like, "This bartender's name is Shelby."
100%. I just wanted to bring it along with all the one-shots that we did with Shelby.
No, it was just funny because like it was like, all right, when's it gonna happen? And it like happened immediately. And it was just like perfect. Love it.
Well, because I knew these guys would always go back to the bar, so having a recurring character named Shelby.
Yeah. Well, I like kind of was like, is Nick gonna name their character Shelby? Like, is this gonna happen? So fantasy Uno and chest. I know when you said chest, you meant to say chess, and you chose chest instead. And then Curtis talked about nipple play. If you were to invent a fantasy game called Chest, how would you play it?
I have no idea.
I think it's like you basically lock a rogue in like a big like chest, and they have to get out. And you bet on it how long it takes for them to get out.
Or maybe it's like Operation, but with boobies.
Maybe.
You have to twist the right sequence on the nipples
Oh man.
to undo the curse to wake up the person.
So they get their first mission. They go, Mav, which it's hilarious because Ryan and Curtis kept calling him Maeve, and then you're like Maeve, and then you said Maeve, and then like they had finally like gotten to you. It was like the same thing with the Southern accent. Like all of you did Southern accents, all of you did German accents, Irish accents, but that was mostly Caleb. you guys went on the first mission. I know Caleb did this whole thing about the Baron. Did we ever find out what the Baron's first name was?
I know it.
I mean, are you keeping it secret because it might come back
It might.
later? Okay. Dang, I had a couple questions that are like kind of spoilers, and I'm like, ooh, maybe Tim can answer. But if that's the first one and it's a nope, I'm not getting anything out of him.
What are the other ones?
It's later on in my notes, so I'll have to worry about
Okay.
it.
Yeah, we'll get to it when
We'll get to it eventually. No, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have like a crazy amount of notes. Tim's like, oh my god, how long is it going to go? But I would really like to say that I know Caleb was relatively new to D&D.
That was his first time playing D&D.
Well, I mean, he'd played the one shots
Mm-hmm.
prior, but like I love the energy that Caleb brought to the game, because like the part when you're like going and describing all of your characters, and he's like basically like reading off of his character sheet. I'm just like, I know exactly what you're doing. Like I can picture you holding it up or
I think he literally was.
looking at an iPad or whatever, and I just
100%.
like absolutely loved that.
Well, my favorite was like Faith, and then the first thing that came to his mind was Hill. So then it was just Faith Hill.
So then I
Yeah.
had to develop an entire religion about Faith Hill.
And Shania Twain.
Like that was something that through his backstory that I just had to. All right, I have all these these super paladins, and they're based off the D&D gods. Now I have to create my own religion based off of Faith Hill.
I
Awesome.
mean, you could have just renamed all of them. Like, oh, this paladin, Faith Hill, Garth Brooks,
Well, because I again in the
Willie Nelson.
Chaos Gremlin, like for instance, M. Scott's God, I used the Cheshire Cat.
Yeah,
All the quotes from that in Alice in Wonderland. So then, because I was already doing that for M. Scott, I'm thinking, all right, Faith Hill, I'm going to have to look up Faith Hill lyrics and start quoting them back
yeah.
when his God speaks to.
Like they're praying and they're like saying lyrics to songs. I couldn't name a single one of their songs.
I couldn't either.
I couldn't either. I had looked them up.
The amulet with Beulah the elephant in it. Whose idea was that?
I had came up with that because I straight up ripped it off of Critical Role.
Okay.
That is the Ravens, the amulet that Vex had.
Yeah.
Literally went through their page, looked at what it did, and homebrewed it
Yeah.
myself.
Pokeball.
The Pokeball.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
100%.
Pokey necklace.
Now, whose idea was the elephant though?
That was 100% Caleb's.
Love it.
Well, he was going through and he was seeing like, oh, I can have mounts. And he's like, fuck, I can get an elephant for a mount. And he's like, I want one.
And as a DM, I was like, oh, fuck.
Like, you're not for this climate, but okay, here you go.
How is this going to work in my world? All right, well,
And that's what.
That's why we came up with the necklace so that we didn't have to be walking around with an elephant,
elephant
all
all
the
the
time.
time.
Yeah, like, oh wow, that elephant in the room, and they're like, no, the literal elephant in the room, which kind of talks about this world without magic, and of course, M. Scott in the first encounter uses magic, and like then he says later on, like, are we gonna talk about the literal elephant in the room and the elephant in the room? So was that your idea to have a character that had like arcane magic versus like religious magic, or was that basically Curtis created a character and you're like, I'm gonna go with it?
that was all Curtis creating that character and me having to weave it into the story. And then reminding him, like, so magic is illegal. So if you do it in public, shit's going to go down. Like, the guards are going to be after you. Shit's going to pop off.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, like, personally, I think I played Snee perfectly when I threw M. Scott under the bus.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then people were like, yeah, you can't do magic, blah, blah, it's illegal. I go, is he illegal too?
Yeah. What, you're like,
I mean, I just woke up from a fucking 500-year nap.
yeah, like you very much played dumb, like leading up into it, and it was good. I liked that.
I was like, and that was the whole thing, is like, no one gave me enough backstory to know exactly what's going on. I just know that I could be in trouble. That's all I know.
So, kind of talking about on the way to the statue after they were given their first mission, did you use like a random encounter table or anything like that? Because I know like they made it to the statue without any issues. So I was curious if you were rolling on that like during their trip, because I know it was like they literally walked the whole night and nothing happened. And then Nick, how did you feel watching them being dummies on their way to come find you?
It was great.
Because like you're sitting there silent for this whole thing, like watching them do it, and then like you kind of had Tim kind of put together a puzzle for them to solve with like and they're like trying all this different thing. Ryan's trying to pull the gem out and then push it in. He's like, I thought I solved it. How were you able to keep it together, like while they're doing that? And like, because at a certain point, you basically had to kind of like, all right, try this. So I'm just kind of curious what went through your head at that time, if you can recall.
Oh no, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
Well, when you're relying on someone who's a brand new D&D player to start someone else's beginning of their arc without any preface beforehand, I mean, you can't expect much more.
So this is my DM notes, looking at what I actually wrote down. Okay, there is the random table, a D4. A lot of it's just safe travels because I wanted them to get to Sneeze, so Nick isn't sitting there the whole time not doing anything.
Hey, it happens, and it's funny.
After day 2, they enter the forest, perception check to see Sneeze. Guess what that DC was?
A 2?
It was a 10.
Okay.
Investigation check DC to find the bag of holding attached to Sneeze. 10. How to turn Sneeze's character on. Caleb's character has to use magic on him. Period.
Just any magic.
Any magic. If they don't figure it out, Caleb's character to roll an intelligence check, DC 10, and stating your magic is different. That's literally what I have in my notes.
Love it. So obviously, finally, after railroading a little bit there and basically saying, all right, guys, this is what you need to do, they wake Snee up. SN3E. Which immediately they're like, Snee, let's call you Snee. Was that your intention? Like, did you think that they were going to call him Snee? Or did you think it was going to be more of like, Nick was going to be like, I don't know a name, and then come up with one? Like, what were your thoughts on that?
I think that was Nick's character name, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my character's name was Snee. But it was, so what I had is like, I had like a barcode or a number or whatever, and it was like 5N33 or something like that. And so then Tim was like, yeah, it's, he says his little bit, and then everyone's like, and everyone just caught on easily enough on it, thankfully. Otherwise,
Well, that's
they could have been like, Snee3E.
Yeah, or we're going to call you Jeff, which, that's Ryan.
Then you know what? It would have been Snee and then parentheses Jeff.
Or Ken. He'd be like, you're Ken. I'm going to call you Ken. Every NPC becomes Ken to
No,
Ryan.
well, or Jack.
Well, I think I may be misremembering this, but I think we were talking about off air calling you Snee or your character.
Oh, that's true. We probably did have a session where I mentioned, I was like, yeah, my character's name is Snee at some point.
At some point.
Yeah, I was just curious.
And then it also, like, my actual character name on D&D Beyond said Snee, which is what also could have been a clue, but I don't think... I mean, it's hard to realize if some of our group members really connected those dots or not.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Um,
I mean, I would have gone with whatever they started calling me because I wouldn't have a name.
yeah, you're like, all right, cool. I'm going to go by Fuckface.
You would just see my character's page, like, in the group, just like, fuckface.
But like with the backwards, like a 3 for the E instead.
Exactly.
My favorite is Shatheed.
Oh, yeah, Shatheed, yeah.
Feed.
SHITHEAD.
Well, also, like, so that's an Irish name. Dammit is an Irish name, and Asthorn is also an Irish name.
Asthorn. Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, we have, like, because my family's Irish, so we have, like, this book that had all these, like, Irish names in it. And we're like, oh, God, these are awful. So you guys took a break, and you were, like during the episode, and, like, while you were doing that, Ryan asked for you guys to like and subscribe and do all that. Did anyone give you any bad reviews?
No.
Did people only give you 5-star ratings?
I think only 4 people have reviewed it, and it's all been us.
That's fine. So that's success. Cool. I was just curious.
We did say, if you don't like us, give us a 5 and then tell why we're actually a
Yeah,
1.
I was just curious if like you had gotten any feedback or gotten any emails or anything like that.
0.
Because like when I started the Instagram, like the second time around, I got creepy people sliding into my DMs like, I'm a sexy bard. Tell me more about the sticks to snakes. And I'm like, oh man, get out of here. So there's a fight.
The wolves. Yep.
The wolves with the acid out of their mouths. Baby Babylon. I don't even think I ever said Babylon's name until now in like this episode that we're currently in right now. Uses their breath weapon, and then combat goes on. During that, Ryan stops you and goes, like, other things that happen, other action economy already gone. Ryan stops you and goes, actually, it is allowed to take 5 by 30. And so he said he was going to retcon it, and you were like, that's fine, that's cool, and you did damage to the other ones. Just curious, like, what your thoughts were on that, because, like, for me, I would be like, you didn't read your spell right, you're not getting that extra damage. You, being a benevolent DM, were like, I'm going to give you that extra damage. I know it's session 0-1, but, like, I was just kind of curious where your head was at during that.
I mean, it's part of the DM not knowing everything.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck that thing does, because I'm keeping track of all this other stuff, so I can't keep track. And if he, and I'm also one to go to benefit the PCs. I'm not going to be the hard-nosed DM and be like, oh, you didn't.
Oh, that's who I am, so.
I would be more keen to it later on, but I think that was actually a relatively tough fight. Like, I didn't have any weapons, so I was doing literally 1 damage.
I mean, Babylon was down to 1 hit point, like, or literally
and then went down in the final punch.
Which is funny that I say that, because literally my next question is, what are your thoughts on Baby going full can of whoop ass on the first fight?
I mean, sure. Yeah. And then it's kind of the DM pushing back on a player going, hey, maybe you should try alternative methods. And then that player, to this day, as in our last episode of the campaign, still doing that.
Yep.
I'm okay.
But, like, that is true. Like, that is true to Babylon. That is true to Ryan. Like, that is just who they are. And, like, it's great that they're that hard-headed and that they keep playing that. And it's, like, some, like, is like, oh, it's playing the character. But then I'm also like, Ryan also is forgetful. And, Ryan, I really hope you're listening to this episode because, you know, I love you. But you do forget things unless, you know, someone tells you it happened.
Seriously. Well, we had talked about, like, in multiple points, because he's like, yeah, all my character does is punch. I'm like, you're a monk. You headbutt, you kick, you flourishes and backhands and elbows. I was like, your whole body's the weapon. You can do whatever move. And then he's like, yeah, you're right. 5 minutes later, I punch a bunch.
But then also,
cool.
Then when they get their, you know, they level up and get their monk, like their way, they get the way of the astral monk, which is hilarious because then they just get more arms, more punches.
More punches. And also, I think they rolled like shit.
Yeah.
That whole encounter, they rolled like shit.
We all rolled like shit.
No modifiers. And then so this I'm going to ask, and like I said, this was probably another question that you may be able to answer, you may not. Smacks, just randomly showing up and being a little weirdo. Were they on like a random encounter table and they just happened to roll and find them? Or was this just part of it is like, well, you want to introduce this character because it has some importance to being the, you know, alluding to being the savior of the forest?
A little bit of both. I think the DC was really high to find him, but then after all that stuff with the wolves goes down, I had kind of railroaded that encounter or made the perception check way lower so they would find Smacks.
It to me, as the player side, I see that as like a, hey, there's actually something really crazy weird going on, the way that when we bring it up to Mav later, he's like that the dude's actually real, like that's just folklore.
Yeah.
Like he's supposed to come around when like the forest's in like dire straits and stuff, and here you guys are a bunch of idiots and you run across him.
Yeah.
So to on my side, whether that was Tim's intent or not, it's just like, oh, these weird ooze dripping wolves that attacked us after my 500-year nap and I have no memory.
250.
shut up. But it's just like, all right, cool. Like, maybe there's something actually pretty serious going on here.
Yeah.
It's kind of layering. It's, hey guys, this is the main plot of the story, but some other shit is going to happen before that, and then me sprinkling in the main plot throughout the campaign.
Yeah, dude.
Sure. And then obviously
Foreshadowing.
Snee having the AOL startup. That
Talk about that being loud in everybody's ears.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about listening to it yesterday or whatever. I'm like half asleep and just like, because I'm listening to it like as I'm falling asleep, because Tim loves to hear that people use this podcast to fall asleep. But like that's how I remember it. And I'm going to end this episode with a crazy dream that I had before we end it, just because it's wild. It has nothing to do with D&D. But probably has something to do with me listening to D&D like before bed.
Sure.
Totally.
Lost track of my thought. But yeah, Snee having that like AOL startup sound, like, what made you want to like incorporate that weird noise in there?
I just thought it'd be funny.
Yeah, it was just interesting. Yeah.
And then seeing the table's reaction, I'm probably not going to do that again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's funny. I mean, you could add it now and it'd be great. I think you should add like dragon roars. But it's like me and Nick, like having recorded them beforehand, we're just like, rawr,
Rawr.
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 I mean, there's so many weird noises that I combined in that sound.
Yeah.
There's like
There is a you have mail.
that's at the end. There's like a typewriter going on. There's
Yeah.
laser beams. There's gears grinding. Like it's 5 or 6 different sounds kind of mixed
It's like
into
you
one.
like looked at the sound bites and like, here are your options. And you're just like,
All
yes.
of them.
So then like after that they make it back to the tipsy tankard and they tell Maeve about all these things and talk about smacks. What are you laughing about over there?
Them afterwards, like, did you find my scouts?
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say. Like, so like, what do you want me to pay you for? Like, oh, and then like literally Ryan's like, oh, I completely forgot about that. And then Curtis like, no, I remembered. And then like they rolled the set like. I think Caleb and Ryan just completely forgot what had happened, and
Like, yeah, we didn't find anything. We looked for your scouts everywhere. There was no signs. We found these wolves. This is probably what killed them.
and then Babylon rolled terrible, and you're like, well, okay, well, whatever. I guess I'll pay you anyway. Man, that was wild. Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, I feel like that's a pretty good explanation of the first episode.
Oh, no, you forgot the
episode
most crucial part.
Which one?
When M. Scott used, what was it? Friendship
Charm person.
or charm person
Yeah.
on Mav.
Yeah, that's true.
And then he went and got tacos.
That is
and then,
true.
And then he threw the tacos
Well, because
on the floor.
wore off. Yeah. I mean, I would too if you used charm person on me to get tacos.
And I think it was session 1 where Mav shows
Hey, spoilers.
shows up Tim Scott's room.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or the hint that he was there with the dagger.
Yeah. So those are my thoughts on episode 0.
What was the other things about the Baron that you wanted to know?
Oh no, I mean it was mostly just like what Baron's first name was. That's all I want. No, these were just other random thoughts. Smacks was another one. I was gonna like dive in a little bit deeper, but after you kind of like shut me down with the Baron, I'm done. I don't want to talk about it. I'm actually gonna erase it right now. We'll never know.
I mean, that's kind of the hard part. Like Nick and I have talked because we live together, right? Spoilers. Like I've talked about if we never go back to the campaign, doing like the full-blown spoiler
Sure.
of talking about everything that I had alluded to and all the stuff, and even going further, like this would have been what would happen, and
Yeah.
blah blah blah. But
Yeah. Well, hopefully we get the campaign going soon, and we can find out.
I can spoil Smacks a little bit. That was
Don't spoil Smack.
Tom Bombadil.
Oh.
Yeah, I took that riff from. That's basically Smacks.
Okay.
Because Tom Bombadil is a weird character.
Yep.
So I just,
Also peed on me.
Yep.
Not Tom Bombadil, but Smacks.
Well, we don't know. Tom Bombadil may have peed on Nick. We don't know.
That's
He
where
hasn't shown up yet, so.
that's where I got that character from. Whether or not he shows up again, I don't know. Truthfully, I'll spoil that because that was kind of tied to the Baron, but you never know.
Fair enough. All right. Is that all we're talking about the first episode?
Yeah,
You guys want to hear about this weird ass dream I had?
Sure.
Oh, yeah, hell yeah.
All right, so had this dream, don't know why. So like my wife's brother, my wife's brother. He's a friend, but he's basically like a brother. Was
Okay.
in town for a concert that he did for Lindenwood, and it was like a cappella.
okay.
So I had this dream that me, Ryan, Nick, Curtis, our friend Corey were all in an a cappella group, and we were like at this like competition, and like we were fighting and we were bickering. And I'm like, honestly, if we tried to sing together, it would be as bad as this. So like this is like it's very very vivid. But like Corey didn't show up, and he's our quiet tall guy friend as we refer to him, and like we're like talking before the contest. Well, then the group before us goes up, and Corey is up on
That
stage.
backstaging son of a bitch.
And I still haven't texted him and told him this wild, crazy story. But that's not it. So, like, obviously, like, our group falls apart. We lose the competition. So then, like, we, this is where it gets real wild. So then, like, we all, like, well, we got to find ourselves. So then it becomes, like, we got to go seek out some sort of, like, singing shaman, like some a cappella guy. So we go to this, like, retirement center. And there's this like young, like probably guy in his like, probably like 40s ish, but he like looks like a college kind of burnout like guy. And we're like, I don't remember his name or whatever, but I'm like, we need your help to become the best a cappella group. And he's like, okay, that's fine. And he like grabs his like, it's like a Stanley Cup, trying to stay relevant. So, SEO and hashtag Stanley.
Yep.
And he's like, here, drink from this. So then I drink from it, but it's not actually a cup, it's a pipe. And like, as I'm like getting in this weird psychedelic thing, he's like, it's PCP, it's angel dust.
Jesus.
So then the next thing I remember is me just like swimming in this beautiful pool and just like a wonderful mermaid or whatever. But then like I come down from this high and I'm just running around in an empty pool, and there's like a security guard shining like a flashlight telling me that I need to get out of there. And then I woke up and told my wife this, and she's like, what is wrong with you? All right, roll that footage.
Wow.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, like honestly, like that is literally a movie in itself. I'm just like, this is what happens when I listen to.
You-
So this wasn't last night. This would have been 2 nights ago, because I'm like, this is not what I had this morning. But yeah, so
You literally like it was like Pitch Perfect and
like
what was
like Beer Fest
and
or
Beer-
like
no what was the one with Will Ferrell and
Old School.
Old School? It's like a cross between Old School.
Yeah. But I just thought it was so wild that I'm just like so mad, and then it's like, take this, and it's like, he's like, it's PCP.
It's PCP.
Angel dust.
Are you an angel? No, I'm just high on PCP.
Yeah.
All from listening to this podcast.
Yep. So there you go. That's the from the creative mind of Phil Jacobs.
So hey, if anything else, listen to our podcast while you fall asleep, so you have crazy ass fucking dreams.
And then hit us up on the social medias and let us know if they're as crazy as my dream, because I think that's going to be hard to beat.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.